Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Hagum, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. If you're getting ready, preparing to run in the Wine Glass Marathon this weekend and you just happen to tune in, thanks for joining us. Good luck. We have a very, very busy show this morning. Three different interviews, 5 different guests. Coming up in this hour, we'll be talking with Cody Murphy and Sean Williams from the new Elmira Aviators. They have their home opener tonight at Lecom Arena, formerly known as the First Arena. They're going to join us and tell us about the team, what to expect from the home opener. And then at 7 o'clock-ish, we'll be talking with Bryan Maggs. Bryan Maggs is running for family court in Chemung County, so we'll be talking with him as well. That's at 7. And then at 7:30, we'll be talking to Jeremy and Libby from Appleridge and RAAD about an upcoming health fair on October the 25th. How about that lineup? Whew. It's going to be busy, and I'm looking forward to it. We've got a lot to cover. Breaking news this morning. I like to start with breaking news. You may not have heard this yet. Elon Musk is going to join former President Donald Trump at the Butler, PA rally. Yes, Trump is making his return to Butler after the assassination attempt that occurred just 3 months ago. Musk wrote in a tweet, "I will be there to support." The rally is being held tomorrow, by the way. The Republican presidential nominee shared the infamous photo of himself raising a fist in the air with blood smeared across his face. I don't know, is infamous the right word? I mean, I think it's an iconic photo. One that in a different election cycle would still be the main focus. But to hear the media, it's not necessarily a conversation they want to have, and definitely not a photo they want to have. If you recall right after, or to show, I should say, if you recall, soon after the photo was making the rounds in the media, Axios reported that there were many in the media saying, "Don't show this anymore. It's quote unquote Trump propaganda. It's helping his cause." Imagine that about a historic photo after an assassination attempt. Don't show it because it may help a presidential candidate. But Trump shared the photo and underneath said, "I'm coming back to Butler." And that's when Musk weighed in saying, "I'll be there in support." Now, we know that Musk officially endorsed Trump. When it comes to endorsements, by the way, Kamala Harris having a tough go at it. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Now, yes, of course, you got Liz Cheney. If you're watching other outlets this morning, that may be in their mind the biggest story perhaps ever. Liz Cheney, someone that they in the past have said horrible, horrible things about and have said horrible, horrible things about her father. She is now a media darling, to use that term, and is being, and I know we talked about this quite extensively yesterday with former Congressman Joe Sempolinski, but it's amazing when Republicans can be so hated until they turn on Republicans, and then, i.e. Chris Christie, then they become stars, and they become people that are asked to join shows on MSNBC, give political commentary. So again, Trump will return to the scene of the assassination attempt, the Butler Farm Show grounds. So it's actually the same location, just 12 weeks after the shooting. Now, if you, I don't know the exact time, but Trump, in an interview on Wednesday, blamed the White House when he confessed he's always worried about his safety at rallies. He said, "Well, I'm always worried. I think the White House isn't treating us very good. It's very unfair the way we've been treated, and we have to get better security. It really is being led more so by the White House than anybody else." So I'm sure many we'll be watching closely. I'm not sure if Elon Musk, as he said, I will be there to support. I don't know if he'll be giving a speech at the rally or just there, perhaps on the stage. But tomorrow, Trump will be in Butler at that rally along with Elon Musk. So that is breaking news. That came out. It depends on what your bedtime is. It either came out very late last night or very early this morning. Also, the U.S. port workers and operators have come to a deal to end the East Coast strike immediately, according to the union. It is a tentative deal, but the 3-day longshoremen strike that sparked panic in the U.S. about potential supply chain issues. And I know we talked about it quickly yesterday. You started to see another run on toilet paper, reminiscent of the pandemic. It is set to end immediately as dock workers and port operators reach a tentative deal, according to representatives from each group. The strike, which snarled incoming shipments of dozens of ports stretching from Maine to Texas, will end at least until January the 15th, after the International Longshoremen's Association, which is a union that represents 45,000 dock workers, and the U.S. Maritime Alliance, which represents shippers and port operators, they reached a tentative deal on wage increases. So until January 15th, which doesn't that... Sounds like the continuing resolutions in Washington, doesn't it? We'll work on the budget on December 20th. In this case, January 15th, conveniently after the presidential election. Effective immediately, all current job actions will cease and all work covered by the master contract will resume, said both parties in a joint statement. Dock workers will see an approximate 62% wage hike over 6 years under the new deal. The union had been asking for a 77% raise. With the biggest issue, wages, settled, both sides have agreed to extend their master contract through January the 15th to continue bargaining on several other outstanding contract issues. The extension buys both parties time to negotiate a new 6-year contract. The negotiations, when they meet on January 15th, they'll probably start negotiating, probably the 14th? It is. It's very reminiscent of the continuing resolution. The strike, which began just after midnight on Tuesday, was the first time dock workers with the union walked out the job since 1977. So there's some breaking news this morning. Oh, I see some comments coming in already. Get those comments in. We will have opportunities to get to them through our various interviews this morning. Looking forward to each one of them. Now, I referenced the major endorsement for Kamala Harris, which was Liz Cheney. If you get bored, you can go to the New York Post. I don't believe we'll have time to review all of them, but they have a great article up about all the times that Liz Cheney attacked Kamala Harris. I guess times change. Liz Cheney has some grudge against Trump, probably because she lost so easily lost when she ran for re-election because of Trump's non-support. Looks very vindictive in all of this. And I know we talked about it a lot yesterday with Joe Semplinsky, but I think she's one of the Republicans that likes the attention from the quote-unquote cool kids. Now, here you have a woman who her whole life essentially saw her father attacked viciously by the media, that same media that she now wants to be offered the opportunity to speak with. They make it sound like it's a big endorsement. They make it sound, and those in the media want to focus on it and say former GOP representative Liz Cheney. Fine. That's the attention she likes. Who does that help? If you're a Republican and Liz Cheney tells you to vote for Kamala Harris, the same Kamala Harris that she badmouthed on a regular basis, does that switch your vote? You said, I was going to support Trump, but I guess now Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney support Harris. I don't know. If you're one of those people that thought, well, maybe Nikki Haley was the answer and that didn't happen, maybe that sways your vote. I don't know. But Kamala Harris didn't receive an endorsement from the Teamsters. We know that historic, really that non-endorsement, because they didn't endorse Trump either, but that non-endorsement was essentially an endorsement for Trump. Now we learned that Kamala Harris was snubbed by another major labor union, a union that was all in back in 2020 for Joe Biden. In another blow to Harris, the International Association of Firefighters announced Thursday that it would not be making a 2024 presidential endorsement. The union, which represents more than 300,000 career firefighters and emergency responders, was the first to endorse President Biden's 2020 White House bid and has a long history of backing Democrat presidential candidates. IAFF's decision not to endorse a candidate in 2024 comes 2 weeks after the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, which has long backed Democrats, defied the will of its pro-Trump membership and declined to make a presidential endorsement. And that was the problem that I had. And I asked the question. I know we have union members that watch this program, and thank you for joining us. Is that discouraging when the polls show, the internal polls show with the Teamsters, that the men and women on the ground, they actually support Trump overwhelmingly, yet the union leadership says, now we're not going to endorse Harris, but we're not going to endorse Trump, even though their members support Trump. I'm not sure what the polling showed with the International Association of Firefighters, but there's a reason why they're not endorsing Harris after going full-throated for Biden back in 2020. So, again, I don't know. If you're Kamala Harris, would you rather have the endorsement of the Teamsters and the International Association of Firefighters, or would you rather have Liz Cheney? The question I pose is, what will get more media coverage? Unfortunately, I think it is Liz Cheney. And I know there's not a lot of love lost between many viewers and Liz Cheney, and I understand that. But today, the IAFF Executive Board, by a margin of 1.2%, voted to not endorse a candidate in the 2024 presidential election, read a statement from the President, Edward Kelly. Over the past year, the IAFF took unprecedented steps to hear our members' views on the candidates and the policy issues that matter most to them. So this seems to me, if I could just speculate and read between the lines, it seems to me that this is an example of, our members support Trump. We can't come out and support Trump. We just won't support Harris, which, again, I think is weak leadership. I also think it speaks volumes of what they think about their members and the people, again, on the ground working every day. But I'll continue with the statement. The IAFF Executive Board determined that we are better able to advocate for our members and make progress on the issues that matter for them if we as a union are standing shoulder to shoulder. The decision, which we took very seriously, is the best way to preserve and strengthen our unity. A couple things. A new, PR 101. Make sure you always put in your press release and in your statement, we took this decision very seriously. You notice how much that comes up anymore? But the reason this is, so frustrating is if you think this is a way to get maybe the best deal for your union in the future by not endorsing a candidate, why such a full-throated endorsement of Joe Biden in 2020? If you're trying to, are you suggesting you're staying neutral? Representative Carlos Gimenez, a Republican from Florida, the only career firefighter pandemic in Congress and a retired IAFF member, said that the union's decision to not endorse was a big deal and good news for former President Trump. Quote, I'm pretty sure there was a big struggle for some people that wanted to endorse President Trump and some people wanted to endorse Kamala Harris. It's not the same thing that happened 4 years ago when they were the first union to endorse President Biden. It's a big shift in that union not giving an endorsement. Now, get this. The IAFF backed the Democratic nominee for president in every election between 1984 and 2012. Now, back in 2016, when Trump was up against Hillary Clinton, the union did the same. They did not make that an endorsement. I think the majority of the membership wanted to endorse President Trump, said Mendez. So I think this was a good day for President Trump. This is the second major union that has failed to endorse a Democratic nominee, and that's a big deal. It is a major deal. It's unfortunate that a non-endorsement for president isn't just an endorsement for Trump. They just can't go that far. And I know last time we had this conversation, it was because union leadership doesn't want to take that that stance. Even if their members want it, they just can't. That's just a bridge too far. They can't, as pretty entrenched in the Democrat Party, they can't take that final step and actually endorse the Republican. But a non-endorsement, nonetheless, is an endorsement for Trump. The Trump campaign called the non-endorsement, quote, another devastating blow to Kamala Harris's failing campaign. Hardworking Americans, including Teamsters, firefighters, Border Patrol agents, law enforcement officers, teachers, small business owners, moms and dads, are sick and tired from the inflation, border crisis, and chaos caused by Kamala's incompetence and terrible policies. President Trump represents the change our country desperately needs, and he will deliver economic relief, safety, and security for all Americans. Okay, running just a tad bit late. Stay with us. I see some comments coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Yes, it is back. The roof cam. What a beautiful view of Marcus Street, right in time for the Wine Glass Marathon. So you probably see a lot of runners if I kept this up on the screen, and a lot of people working out this morning in town for the marathon. Welcome back. That's a look overhead of the Hesselson's studio. All right, couple comments from viewers. Yes, I know I'm running very late. Honestly, I don't see how the Democrats expect to win with all the negative shenanigans they've been pulling being exposed. However, since they control all the oversight, all the media, all the lawyers, judges, etc., the Fox is truly watching the henhouse and getting away with anything they want. Also, I don't think a lot of Democrat voters have a say in anything the party does anymore. No, I do believe it's the elites. And that's one of the reasons why the unions are doing the non-endorsements, honestly. They don't want to ruffle the feathers of the elites that have so much power. You know, the Obamas, the Pelosi's. Biden had it for a little bit, and that changed after one bad debate performance and the 50-plus years of being a loyal Democrat gone by the wayside. So I think your point is well taken. That it is the elites, and there doesn't ever seem to be an answer, which is fine. I don't know if there is an answer, but there doesn't seem to be an answer when we pose the question that if you are a Democrat, does it bother you that you pretty on a regular basis don't get a say in who your presidential candidate is? If you look at Bernie, because the fix was in, never had a chance, even though he's packing in rallies, huge numbers, huge support, never had a chance over Hillary Clinton because, again, the elites got to pick. Then the same sort of thing, not to the same level, happened when he ran against Biden. Okay, fine. So now you've got twice where you're kind of used to if you're a Bernie supporter, but not all Democrats are Bernie supporters. Now you went out and voted and took your time to vote for Biden, and at the end of the day, the elite said, and the big money in the elite said, Biden, you're out. You can't do this. You're not going to win. So you're out, and we get to pick who it's going to be, and it's going to be Harris. So, oh, hey, thanks for all these waves. So just, I guess they're just used to it. No one ever has an answer if that bothers them, so it must not. We'll take that as must not. Another comment, Liz Cheney symbolizes the backstabbing types that comprise the Democrat Party. Yes. Liz Cheney is kind of that typical, and unfortunately it seems to be more of a one-party thing, and that's the Republican Party, where there always seems to be that Republican that wants to make a name for themselves by bad-mouthing Republicans. They get the attention from the cool kids in the media. Maybe they weren't popular. I'm not saying that about Liz Cheney necessarily, but maybe they weren't popular. Maybe there's some underlying issues there, and they just like the attention. They like to be on the news because Liz Cheney is no longer relevant, no longer representing, no longer in Washington. So as being no longer relevant, maybe she saw this as an opportunity to make herself relevant again and be out there in the forefront in the news. Okay. Oh, and thank you for the question for Bryan Maggs. I appreciate that. Noted. Put in my list of questions here. Bryan Maggs will be joining us in the 7 o'clock hour. Coming up in just a little bit, we'll be talking with Cody Murphy and Sean Williams from the Elmira Aviators, who open tonight at Lecom Arena. That's, of course, the new hockey team, the Elmira Aviators. Okay. Let's keep moving here. Oh, this is a big story in certain circles, unfortunately not in the mainstream media. The New York Post editorial board put together a op-ed, if you will, on this, and this is a major story. The next Americans to get slammed by the Biden-Harris border disaster are hurricane victims. Homeland Security Chief Mayorkas, who also oversees the Federal Emergency Management Agency, announced Wednesday that FEMA does not have the funds to make it, quote, through the rest of hurricane season because it already emptied its emergency kitty on illegal migrant expenses. It's now sending victims $750 checks to finish off a fund of just $10 million to help hurricane survivors buy groceries. So here's $750. Yes, the victims, the recent victims, which there are so many, receiving $750 checks to finish off a fund of just $10 million. That's all that was left to help hurricane survivors buy groceries. President Biden's answer? Have Congress give FEMA a fresh cash infusion. Yes, blame it on Congress instead of the expense on illegal migrant expenses. Meanwhile, FEMA's devoted $641 million. So remember, $10 million to help hurricane survivors, $641 million this year just to help state and local governments handle the influx of illegal migrants. $10 million for hurricane victims, $641 million this year, just this year, $641 million to help state and local governments handle the influx. Of course, Mayor Adams will point out that this federal help is far short of what localities need to cover the migrant costs, but Biden's not asking for an appropriation to pay for that because then he'd have to admit the cost of his open border policies. Far better to just deplete FEMA funds than tell Adams and other mayors to just suck it up. To be fair, it's not just Mayorkas who didn't prep properly for this year's hurricanes. Kamala Harris reportedly skipped the annual pre-storm season briefing. Indeed, has opted out every year she's been vice president, even though, and this story was, I think, came out earlier this week, Pence made that a regular habit. Harris has skipped every year as vice president for the annual pre-storm season briefing. Meanwhile, Georgia Governor Bryan has his own issue with the Biden-Harris team. He says he was outraged when FEMA initially designated just 11 counties as post-hurricane disaster areas, which allows a victim to file for federal assistance, when he saw, quote, such devastation in up to 90 counties. So Biden-Harris just giving 11 counties that designation, where, according to Bryan Kemp, the governor of Georgia, he believes it's upwards of 90 counties. He rang up the White House and got another 30 counties listed with a chance for more to qualify. Now, if Georgia weren't a swing state, would the response have been that helpful? Also drawing critical fire is Pete Buttigieg's transportation department, which on Tuesday ordered the grounding of all private drones in the North Carolina flood zone, even though drones have been delivering insulin, baby formula, and other crucial supplies to isolated flood victims. Apparently, people are supposed to wait for official help. Tell that screaming infant to be patient. Yes, you can't have help on the side from people delivering insulin, baby formula, other crucial supplies, because they're not government sanctioned. They're not a bureaucrat. Talk about believing way too much in the power of the government. The old line that I'm here from the government and I'm here to help. Pete Buttigieg actually saying no more drone services to help these people because they're private citizens. My transportation department needs to do that. Never mind, as the New York Post puts it, the screaming infant. Tell that screaming infant to be patient. But don't expect any of this to rise to the PR disaster that Hurricane Katrina proved for the George W. Bush administration. Too much of the media is running interference for Harris ahead of Election Day, so it's not going to come up. This disastrous response, the money being depleted by the influx of illegal migrants and those expenses, so that hurricane victims not receiving the relief they need. Never mind the government saying you can't help your neighbors with a drone to get insulin, other critical supplies, because it's not, quote unquote, government sanctioned. It's not a bureaucrat that's rubber stamping it. Even if another hurricane hits hard and Mayorkas has to explain there's no money left to help, we're sure Harris and company will find some way to insist it's Donald Trump's fault. And you remember the nonstop media coverage when Trump, I can't even remember where he was visiting at the time, throwing paper towels like footballs. And that was a major scandal for days. And yet the disastrous response to this hurricane, crickets from the mainstream media. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Harris campaign, but when we come back, I see a lot of comments come in. We'll get to the comments when we come back. But from the break, we are going to hear from Cody Murphy and Sean Williams from the Elmira Aviators. You do not want to miss that. Their home opener is tonight. So we'll hear from them coming up after this break. Get your questions in for Bryan Maggs. Oh, man, I have so many guests coming up. We're really honing in the schedule for this last month. Tomorrow will be a month from Election Day. We also have that voting special here on Big Fox that I'll be telling you about, and that's coming up in a couple weeks for those, because a lot of people have questions about early voting, absentee voting, how to register to vote. It's kind of a who, what, when, where, and why, all the information you need to know so that you're prepared either for early voting on October 26th through or on November 5th, General Election Day. Again, thank you for all the comments yesterday about former Congressman Joe Sempolinski. When he was on the show, I know he is a fan favorite, and I think that's fun. I like playing along with that. So thank you. All right, we'll be right back with our friends from the Elmira Aviators when we return. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio, and in that studio this morning from the Elmira Aviators, Cody Murphy and Sean Williams. Thanks so much for being on the show. You're on the team.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Excited to be here.
So tell us a little bit, people that aren't aware, who are the Elmira Aviators?
The Elmira Aviators are a first-year organization in the North American Hockey League. We just began late April. We're a team made up of players from all over North America, and we're an ice hockey team. These players are 17 to 20 years old.
Okay.
This is the Junior Hockey League, so it's Tier 2 junior hockey. These are some of the best players in all of North America. A lot of these guys will go on to play Division I hockey, at least Division III hockey. And I'd say a fair amount of them will go on to play professional hockey at some very high levels. The league itself has been around for 50 years. It's the oldest league in the United States in junior hockey, so there's a rich tradition, and we're excited to be a part of that.
How long have you been building up the team and getting prepared for, I know tonight's the home opener, you've already had 7 games. How long has practice and that taken?
So there's a lot that's gone into this in a small period of time. The team officially opened end of April, and our beginning and our recruiting really started from there. Sean was one of our earlier players that we brought on board, amongst many others. But yeah, there's been a lot that's gone into it. All summer spent recruiting with the league. There is a draft, so we first started with tenders. The league gave us some additional tenders to start off the team, which we went to work on as a staff to find the best players possible, and then from there we built out the team from the draft. As being a first-year organization, there's a lot of opportunity. We had some players come to training camp, which was here in Elmira, that made the team as free agents. So it's competitive. It's a great environment, and something that we're all very proud of.
Sure. What's the community support been like? Because for those that don't know, you're starting off in the LECOM Arena, formerly the first arena, and the home opener is tonight. What's the community's position on this been?
It's been very positive.
Great.
It's a great foundation in which we're stepping into. It's a town that's had professional hockey to some sort of capacity for the past 25 seasons. So we're very privileged to step into that. It's a great standard at which we want to make sure that we're taken care of, and the LECOM Event Center is beautiful. I think it's something that's going to really help set us apart. The community outreach has been great. We had an exhibition game and had a really great showing of fans.
Good.
And it means the world to our players. It means the world to us. We really want to make the city proud.
Well, Sean, I want to get you in on the interview. Tell us a little bit about why you decided to really come to Elmira, play for the Aviators. What's your, I guess, your hockey career been like?
So I started my junior career in Dauphin. Then I got traded to Winnipeg Blues, and then I went to Sherwood, and I went to Wayway, and then I've been everywhere.
Yeah.
Then I came here, but Cody reached out to my advisor, and just offered a tender, and he looked at me through a video, and just from there, me and Cody had a couple chats, and every time we talked, just grew my interest coming to Elmira, and our last phone call, just I wanted to come here and be a part of this first year organization, which is kind of rare for a player to be a part of.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do that, so I'm excited.
That's got to be exciting, help build the team, right, really from scratch.
Yeah.
So you said you've been all over. Is that typical to travel that much?
Not really, but yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
How does Elmira stack up to every place else?
The arena,
That's a tough one.
It's the
You got to be
best.
careful.
It's the best.
yeah, the arena's the best. The coaching staff's the best, and the players are the best.
Now, what position do you play?
Left wing.
Okay, how long have you been playing your whole life?
Since I was 4 or 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What's your next goal?
So I'm going to college next year for Robert Morris. So
Oh.
play Division I next year, and then see what happens from there.
Yeah. How's the team look?
It looks really good.
Yeah.
For a first year organization, we're really good.
Yeah.
We have a lot of confidence, but also know how to handle some adversity. But yeah.
So when you look at the team, and I don't know how this works, are you considered the veteran because you've played so many places?
Yeah.
Is that how it works? Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. And so you have to help the younger guys.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really nice. So that's kind of builds like a family.
Yeah, just
feeling.
to elaborate on that
Yeah.
point, because you bring up a great point. With our early onset recruiting, we really wanted to make sure we had that junior hockey experience in the locker room, being a first organization, especially stepping into such an established league. These guys understand what it takes, and there's a lot of maturity that comes with the process of playing juniors. As John talked about, playing in different places, it grows them off the ice. There's a lot of kids that come to us, 17 years old, first time moving away from home. There's a transition period.
Yeah.
So you need that veteran presence in the locker room. So it was critical that we found those key components to really build the team around in regards to having that experience. Having guys like Sean, amongst other guys in the locker room, has been great for us.
So is this a scenario where you as Elmira Aviators need host families too?
It is something that we can do.
Yeah.
I know that we've made an outreach, but in this short window of time, end of April, and all of a sudden you're playing in September. There's a quick turnaround. So Elmira College has been gracious enough to let us stay there. So that's where
great.
Our players stay, which is a great situation because it's very similar to that they're going to be stepping into next year, playing NCAA hockey, living in the college dorms,
right?
And having that experience, walking over to the dining hall, all that. So we're super thankful to Elmira College for opening up their doors, and that's been a very positive experience.
And now, what's it like being head coach for a team that's starting again from scratch?
It's an honor.
Yeah.
It's an honor. This is now my 3rd season doing so with the same ownership group as a whole. So when I got the call at the end of April, it was something that I knew that I needed to be a part of. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I've been here 2 times before, and it's very rewarding to see where you start and then where you finish.
Sure.
And the type of friendships that you make along the way, and it's something really, really special. And in fact, it's the only thing I know. I actually, in my junior hockey experience of coaching, I've only had first-year organizations, so it's kind of
that's
funny
interesting.
how those things work out. But again, to see where you start and where you finish, and how the guys start as complete strangers, and then the types of relationships that are built throughout the course of the season. Ultimately, of course, we want to win, and there's other things involved in this too. But it's those relationships that I think mean more than anything.
Sure, lifelong friendships.
Lifelong friendships. Yeah. So, type of culture we're building, and it's definitely a privilege to be a part of this.
What led you to become a head coach?
I would say my playing career.
Yeah.
I played junior hockey. I played NCAA. I played professional. So I've always had the game a part of my life. My dad was a professional hockey player and grew up in that setting. And some of my greatest friends to this day were through the game. And
Sure.
I just have a burning passion for it. And when you have an opportunity, as such, it's something that I didn't want to look back on years later and go, I didn't go for it.
Sure.
It's something that means the world to me, and and to be involved in the game and to see these great young men, even off the ice, these guys are great people, and to bring that team together, it's definitely incredibly rewarding. So that's definitely what drew me to it, and I'm having a great experience with it.
So tonight is the home opener for the Elmira Aviators. What can fans expect from the home opener, which puck drops at 7 p.m.?
I would say, excitement, a lot of energy, a lot of buzz, a lot of preparations going into it. I see the LECOM Event Center guys. I see our staff, our marketing, our production, everybody. I don't want to miss anybody here, but everybody's working towards putting on the great overall production.
Yeah.
I'd encourage everyone to come out, bring your family, bring your friends. It's a great family environment. LECOM does a great job putting on events. It's a great entertainment. It's if you're a fan of hockey, if you're not a fan of hockey, it's fast. There's energy. There's everything that you'd want in the game. There's physicality. There's speed. There's skill. And again, we're stepping into a very established league. These teams are very good, and these guys are going to be playing extremely high levels of hockey. So you're going to see a great product. You're going to see a lot of fun, a lot of energy, and I know just from talking to in-game productions, they want to make this an NHL environment. They want to do, there's 3 media timeouts. So during those 3 media timeouts, they're doing different events to make it entertaining, and they're doing shuck-a-puck in between the periods, and they're doing everything just to make it as fun as possible. So anything that we can do to get involved in the community and give back, we want to do, and we want to be a really big part of this community. So
I know you're biased, but I'll have to ask you too. How's the team look?
Of course, has bias, as you said. I'd say the team looks really, really good. We've had a strong start, 5 wins, 2 losses in our 7 games played, but this is where we start.
Yeah.
This is where we start, and not getting complacent and those types of things is critical. We have a lot of talent on our team. As a first-year organization, we don't have any returning players, right? So these guys were all strangers just 4 weeks ago.
Wow.
So, 6 weeks ago. So they've, we've really encouraged them getting to know each other on and off the ice, learning systems, learning how to trust each other, and I think the guys have been responding really well to that. So. We haven't seen all the teams in our division yet. We did play in the Blaine, Minnesota showcase that had the which of NHL scouts, USHL scouts. Division I, Division III is one of the biggest showcases in all the United States.
Yeah.
We went 2-1 in there, but yeah, I think we have a lot of work to do. And again, we haven't played everybody in our conference, so we still have to figure out a lot of different things. But I would say all in all, very, very positive. Very positive.
How long is the total season?
Season starts beginning of September,
okay,
and it runs all the way to the beginning of April. So
oh, wow.
It's not a short sprint; it's a marathon.
Yeah.
And these guys are tested, we're tested, but I think that's also where the maturity comes in, and that's where being consistent is one of the hardest things to do, and that's one of our messages throughout the course of the season is to find that consistency, whether it's in sports or not in sports. Maybe it's following a diet, etc. Right? Finding consistency can be challenging. So, by the end of the season, we see ourselves as a playoff team, and we're going to work every week towards that.
What does a typical week look like? Is there a lot of practice, a lot of games, the whole mix?
Yes. So these guys.
I should have asked you that, right?
Yeah.
It looks like you have an answer.
I'll start, Sean, and then you can go ahead and jump in on that. But we want to make sure these guys are prepared not only for this season but also beyond.
Of course.
So they come here, ready to work. They're a little idle time, obviously for rest and those things. But for the most part, we have these guys moving. You'll start in the morning with a skills practice. You'll go, work out off ice at New York Sport and Fitness, right across the street, downtown Elmira. They do a phenomenal job. Yeah. So you get a chance to, sign up, go there. I definitely would recommend it. Beautiful facility. They'll get lunch at Elmira College or wherever see fit. They'll come back. We do another practice in the afternoon, more so around systems. And then sometimes we do, meetings from there. We do video meetings. We do all those different types of things. So these kids are incredibly committed to their craft.
Wow. That is amazing. Now, Sean, I wanted to ask you. Well, you can follow up on that too. What's a week look like for you?
I pretty much just Cody covered it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday are battle days, and then those are the harder days, and then and then Wednesday, Thursday are the more fun practices.
Yeah.
More over systems and stuff like that, and then Friday, Saturday are our games, which are probably the funnest 2 days of the week.
Sure.
And then Sunday's a day off, so you can just do whatever you want, hang out with the guys, go golfing.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And since this is such a new team, and like you said, you joined up around April, whatever the case might be. When you first get together as a team, is that like intimidating, almost like the first day of school, trying to get to know everybody?
It can be a little bit if you don't know anyone, but the guys have been so open.
Yeah.
And so
everybody's coming from the same position, really, right? No one knows each other.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, well,
it's a great question. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I do want to jump on that note. Like you mentioned, everybody doesn't know each other,
right.
You know, and that's been one of our messages amongst the many is that, you know, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to open up. It's okay, you know, to feel a little uncomfortable. It's okay. You know, you're human, right?
Yeah,
so, I think everyone's taken to that, and that's where those friendships and bonds are made. So that's definitely an element that makes us unique, right? That we're all from different backgrounds.
Yeah.
So sorry to jump in there, Sean.
all good.
Well, just before we go, tonight is the home opener, and that's at Lecom Arena, formerly First Arena. We're talking about the Elmira Aviators. Obviously, where is the best place to get tickets?
You can find tickets by coming to the arena on site. There's a ticket booth. You can also find tickets through our website, Lecom Events Center. You can reach out to us through social media. We have social media handles through Facebook and Instagram, Elmira Aviators. You can send us a direct message if need be, and we'll accommodate you however we can.
All right, everybody get out to the home opener. Guys, thanks so much for being on the show this morning, and best of luck in the season.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with our beautiful view of historic Market Street as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street, as I just mentioned. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Thank you for joining us, and I want to thank Cody Murphy and Sean Williams from the Elmira Aviators for being our guests this morning. Coming up in just a little bit, Bryan Maggs running for Family Court in Chemung County. Running for Family Court Judge, that is. And then a little bit later on, we're going to be talking with Jeremy and Libby from Appleridge and RAAD about their upcoming health fair. Busy, busy morning here on Frankly Speaking. James Carville unloaded on Harris and Walz because of what President Trump is saying about saving Obamacare. Well, I can't read half the words legally on the air that he was saying, but he said, why isn't Harris herself out today talking about it? Why isn't she? Move. Get off your you-know-what. Move, move, move. What the blank are you all doing in the Harris campaign? Get her out there now. They ought to have Obama and Nancy Pelosi, and they ought to do a Zoom call with the national media. I mean, kick the you-know-what out of this now. Use everything. I don't know what to tell you about your frustration, James Carville. The Harris-Walz campaign has decided that media is not important to them. Using the media to speak to the American people is not the avenue they want to go down. They want to have rallies with the teleprompters. That's fine. There's no knock on teleprompters. All candidates tend to use them. But asking her to do the media, I think, is a lost cause. It was like, again, the former Congressman Joe Semplinsky was saying yesterday on the program, that it's a major deal when they'll say, well, we might do one interview this month. As a presidential candidate, not just any presidential candidate, a presidential candidate didn't have the primary process, did not have that kind of quote-unquote vetting. Now, yes, she has been vice president for 3.5 years. But that is even something she's trying to distance herself from. And I go back to that article that said Vance will try to tether Harris to the Biden administration. I think that automatically happens when you become someone's vice president. I think you're tethered at that point. But trying to distance herself, and we hear reports from anonymous sources, so take them with a grain of salt, that Biden is not happy that he's not getting more credit on the campaign trail, that his name's not being used more, that she's trying to distance herself from him, that behind the scenes they're seething over that. But so I don't know what answer someone could give James Carville for being upset that they're not doing media. has nothing, I mean, if anything, history, these few short months can prove media is not important to them. Speaking with the voter is not important to them. Only, and we talked about this yesterday, what the plan of attack is in their campaign is to hold their rallies, knowing that the media will give them attention, the media will give them positive coverage, talk about the momentum, talk about how great she's doing. And that, just to prove my point, I think that's why so many people were shocked with what they saw from Walz on Tuesday's debate, because they had been, and from Vance, because the media had been telling the American people such a different story, that Vance is weird and that Walz is cool, calm, and collected. I mean, in a flashy way, in a folksy way, that he's like kind of a leader in the room. And then the American people watched the debate and saw really the complete opposite, a 180 from that. So they know the media will continue to push a narrative, a caricature, if you will, of the candidates and protect and defend Harris to try to kind of drag her across the finish line. So they know they've got that. They know they have the media. They now know that they have this kind of lawfare and this quote-unquote October surprise with Jack Smith's document dump, which even CNN has to admit. CNN saying, will the January 6th even make a difference in this election? But anyway, so they know they have the media's protection and defense. And they've got a huge war chest. You may not like it, but they've got a lot of money. So they're getting their message out, and I think somewhat effectively through these negative attack ads. Now, we see them some in New York, but not a lot. I've talked to friends on the ground. I know that's anecdotal, but I've talked to friends on the ground specifically in Pennsylvania telling me that they're nonstop. The ads are nonstop. And we can say what we want about negative ads and how the American people hate negative ads. They are effective. So her campaign is essentially avoid the media, maybe give some local interviews because she knows they won't be tough, there won't be pushback. Give the local interviews because, again, a reporter at a small station in Pennsylvania, I'll just use Pennsylvania, they're just happy. That reporter isn't trying to get to the higher echelon. They just are excited to interview the vice president and potentially future president so they can share it on their Instagram, their Facebook. It's not about furthering their career and asking the tough questions because, as a matter of fact, if they ask the tough questions, there goes any interview opportunities, there goes maybe their job in the small market, there goes their reputation, because if you are asking the tough questions from someone that even the mainstream media, the big upper echelon media, aren't asking those tough questions. If you do that, you are now a social pariah in the field that you studied to be in. And media, no matter what you think, from up to down, is a very small business. All right, we got to take a short break. Hour number 1 in the books. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. And we are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And in this studio this morning, running for family court judge in Chemung County, Bryan Maggs. Thanks so much for being on the program.
Hey, Frank, thanks for having me.
We're just talking on the streets, a beautiful fall day, and everybody's ready for the Wine Glass Marathon.
A couple of people ran past me on the way in.
It's impressive, right, at this hour. So I want to talk about, obviously, the campaign, but let's start with the easy question that we always do when we talk with judges. Tell us about your background.
I got an interesting background. I moved to Elmira after law school. I started working in the appellate division. There was a now deceased Judge Crew was a DA here, and Judge Crew worked up at the appellate division where I started. And he brought me down to Chemung County where I started working for Judge Castellino. Okay. Judge Castellino was a former family court judge. He worked at Supreme Court at the time. I worked with him and then Judge O'Shea for a couple of years. And then from there, I went on to start in the county attorney's office. Worked in family court for about 5 years, 6 years until Weed and Wetmore got elected as DA. Okay. And then I got a promotion to county attorney where I supervised the family court attorneys. Oh, okay. I did that for another 11 years. And then the last 5 years, so this is going on.
I was going to say, how long have you been in this?
Yeah, this is 24 years total.
Wow.
So for the last 5 years, I've been the attorney to the legislature. Oh. So I've seen every aspect of both the court system and the county government.
And you look at your experience and in your background specifically. I wanted to ask, because doing a little research, how do you think that your military service will help in this job, the family court judge?
It's a great question. You know, one thing is, I'm very proud of my military service.
Of course.
It's not really something that I talk about or tend to brag about, but I think one thing about military service that is universal for everybody, regardless of politics, is to serve in the military, you serve other people. Yeah. You put other people first. You put the values of America first. And as the family court judge, that is what's important, is putting what's important to people first, putting the community first. Sure. So just the virtue of military service in and of itself, I think, qualifies someone to be in the position. In the military, though, I've done a lot of things that impact family court.
For sure.
Well, I was up at Fort Drum with the 10th Mountain Division. This is during the Iraqi Freedom War that we had. I served as the counselor to their child advocacy team and their domestic violence team. So I worked closely with the Jefferson County Department of Social Services and helped women that were victims of domestic violence and children of the military members that were suffering child abuse. Just the same. It's a military system that they have, similar to our family court system.
Oh, that's very interesting. Because, just in general, we talk about you're 18 years old when you enlisted. Going back to your experience in general, you say unique, and I'm looking at some of your background, and I'm someone that tries to be involved in the community a lot. And I'm on quite a few boards, and I'm not saying that braggadocious, but I know it takes up a lot of time. So you're on all this community involvement. You obviously got a job. Why did you decide to run for this position?
So what's really, really, really important to me is helping people. And the best times that I've had in my legal career was when I was in family court. I wasn't sure how I would like family court back when I started working in family court 23 years ago. It's a tough court to be in.
I'm sure.
But what I noticed is the impact that you can have on children and families, and that's really where the future of the community starts. When family court is typically, especially for kids that are getting in trouble, for example, that's the first court system where you have a chance to try to divert them away from the bigger, badder things that they might do when they grow up, try to fix mental health problems before they become substantial in leading to, for example, the drug and the homelessness problem that we have. Yes. So the ability to intervene at an early level, that's what brought me to family court.
Now, let's explain to people, because it's a little different than years past. When they go in to vote for family court judge, how will the ballot look? What is the scenario itself, just as we near early voting on the 26th?
Well, as you can imagine, for those that live in and around Chemung County, we needed to add a second family court judge. Yeah. Family court cases and our dockets are overloaded. So this year, for the first time, there's a second family court seat on the ballot. It's a vote for 2 elections. So we have 3 individuals running for the 2 seats, and on the Republican line, that's myself and the incumbent judge, Mary Tarantelli.
And so you can vote. I want to drive that point home. You can vote for 2 out of the 3. Now, you're obviously out campaigning. And by the way, I love this, and maybe you can explain why you do this. You were showing me what you hand out when you talk with voters, and one is a pocket constitution.
I ordered those pocket constitutions because I believe in the Constitution. It's the foundation of our democracy. It's the reason I joined the military. I was a kid, and I was, this is back in the late 70s and early 80s, and I see all these Vietnam veterans walking around, and I know the trouble that they had back when they came back from Vietnam. It's a different world today, but back then, I really enjoyed talking to the Vietnam veterans. That's what really inspired me when I turned 18 to enlist in the Army. And just understanding what America meant. I even remember the bicentennial in 1976, how important it was. I was a really little kid at that time. But I've always loved America. I love the Constitution. I love the founders. And I'm a family-first conservative.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I think that's a great idea, because so many people seem to be, at certain times, a constitutional scholar that I don't think they always read it. So this is nice to have in a pocket constitution. So I appreciate that. When you are talking with people and you give them the Constitution, talk about your experience in your career, what are voters saying to you? What are their concerns?
Well, number one is they appreciate receiving the Constitution.
Right, yeah,
I'll tell you that. So more than anything, as soon as they get that, they say, geez, do people even know what this means anymore?
I know that.
But believe it or not, the biggest concerns that people have today concerning really our community and how family court can impact that, the drug problem, the lack of respect that kids tend to have towards authority, just the change in the way that society is evolving, and homelessness. As a singular issue, homelessness becomes a big topic when I go door to door.
And do you believe, looking ahead, if you are elected to family court judge, what will be the biggest issues you face? Do you believe that's what will be drugs, homelessness, those type of things? Not to put words in your mouth.
Well, drugs is a big problem. For me, it's accountability. Accountability is the key to everything. So whether it's kids being accountable to their obligations, to school, to the community, disregarding authority, those sorts of things. Accountability is huge for parents as well. Oftentimes, kids getting in trouble. It's not that you don't want to blame the kids because everybody makes their own decisions and you have to face your own consequences. But parents are a big problem. So educating the parents, giving them the services they need, and that's really what I learned during my time as a Department of Social Services attorney in family court. I prosecuted hundreds and hundreds of child abuse and neglect cases and serious abuse cases, as well as juvenile delinquency. And oftentimes, family court, I'll just say, family court it's a court of services. It's a services court. It's not a punitive court. Although you can put people in jail or in detention, it's really about trying to get people the services that they need so that they don't recur and rehash the same problems that have brought them there in the first place.
So that it's got to be an interesting job in that, and almost an emotional job, really. It's kind of got to be a difficult job to have, but it's such an important one. Is that something that you think about?
Well, so I have a very, very steady temperament. It's not that I'm very emotional, and I think I've raised 4 daughters, so that's something else about me. So my youngest is 18, my oldest is 25. I've been through between that, and I've coached youth for about 20 years.
Yeah, I saw.
In softball and soccer, boys and girls. I've seen just about everything that you can see, and being able to approach situations that are very emotional, especially for the parties involved. There's nothing more emotional to people than their kids and their money, and that's what's involved in family court. When you're talking about child support, when you're talking about how much time you get to spend with each parent, who gets them on the holidays, all these kinds of things. Emotion is a big part of it, but also it's important to break through that emotion and focus on what's in the best interest of the children.
We've got a couple other things. I want to mention this because I have a list of your endorsements, and I would ask you to read them, but it's only an hour show. You've got to be very humbled by how many people came out and endorsed you.
Well, I am. It's amazing to me how many people I've dealt with. Everybody on I've got a list of 50 names on my letterhead, so that's the list that you're referring to. There have been some people that have come to me and asked to be put on the list that I had to politely decline putting them on the list because I couldn't make it longer. This isn't really about people endorsing me in a political sense. Everybody on that list I've worked with at a personal level, and I barely even had to ask them. Many of the people asked me if they could be put on the list, but everybody from I know I consider at the top of the list, Tom Santulli, who was very, very important to me. I was his county attorney for 11 years until he retired. We got
Sheriff Schramm.
Sheriff Schramm.
A good friend of Frankly Speaking. Yeah.
So, if you ever talk to Sheriff Schramm, one of my most emotional cases that I ever did, Sheriff Schramm at this time was an investigator before he was even the undersheriff. It was a case where an infant was found dead in a crib, and he did the investigation, and we brought in the medical examiner, and we were essentially prosecuting for child abuse the parents that we believed committed that crime. And he was a fantastic witness, and that's the reason that he's on that list. Is we got to know each other 15, 18 years ago during that case.
Yeah, well, very impressive, and I appreciate you sending that along. So just before we go, I know judge races are a little different. How can people help, and how can people find out more?
Well, you can help by being good citizens
and voting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You go out and vote.
Yeah.
It's really important that you do your research on the candidates. Temperament, judicial philosophy, experience, and experience means all sorts of things.
Sure.
But go out and vote. That's very important.
Of course.
And obey the law so we don't have to.
so we don't have to see you. Just before we go, because it is an important role as family court judge, and this is in Chemung County, and because it's also a 10-year term. So what would you say to voters before they head to either early voting or out to the ballot box?
Look me up.
Yeah.
Chances are very good that I have many lawn signs. I have many endorsements. I've got chances are very good that you know somebody that knows me.
Okay.
I've personally been to over 4,000 houses during this election season, and there's going to be about, I don't know, less than 40,000 people that vote. So probably 1 in 10 houses I've been to, handed out a constitution, handed out some materials, talked
That's
to people.
great.
In addition to that, you know somebody that knows me. Ask them about me. I think you'll like what you hear.
Well, thanks so much for being on the show. I hope we can talk again before Election Day.
Thanks, Frank.
All right, we'll be right
Appreciate it.
back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. And we are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I apologize, there's so many comments coming in. I didn't have a chance during our interview to look at them. I hope I will read them after the next break. And I appreciate Bryan Maggs for being on the program. We will talk to him again. We will have all 3 candidates on the show. You know that's been a goal from the beginning here on Frankly Speaking. All 3 candidates and all candidates that want to be on Frankly Speaking are invited to attend. You see the number on the bottom of the screen. Just go ahead and reach out to me, and I will get something scheduled, though I will do a full kind of disclaimer here. The sooner the better. I was looking yesterday. We are nearly booked. Now we can move some things around. We can do 2 to 3 interviews a day. But if you want, or you know someone that is running and you want to be on this program, please contact me sooner rather than later. It's an easy process. As you see, judges, I know I give this disclaimer a lot too. There's only certain things I can ask because it's very regimented, it's very strict. You can't say, what about this issue or that issue? So they're all very similar when it comes to judicial races, but we're going to have other candidates on as well. And like I said, we are filling up fast. So thank you again to Bryan Maggs for being on the program. Mary Tarantelli was on, earlier this week. Okay. We're going to have all 3 candidates on for that race, and we've had both candidates on for Steuben County Family Court. So proud of that. We want to have all candidates of all political stripe on the program, and Bryan Maggs running as a Republican and a conservative. Okay. I know we have a lot of comments coming in. I'm not ignoring your comments. I just didn't have a chance to read them and get them on the air. We will do that at the next break. But let me make a quick announcement because I do have another break coming up and I'm running late this morning. I want to remind you, this is something I hope you all look forward to like I do, and that's the San Giovanni Valderno sister city, which is our sister city here in Corning. Students and teachers are coming back into town. As a matter of fact, I believe they arrive today. Well, they have that big fundraiser. It's a pasta dinner coming up on Thursday, and yes, we will have guests from San Giovanni Valderno on the program next week, but they will have this fundraiser on Thursday at Corning High School Cafe. It is 4:30 to 7:30, and you see there the menu: pasta, meatball salad, rolls, and dessert, just $15, and all proceeds go to benefit the Corning San Giovanni Valderno Sister City Committee. That's something that we always look forward to, and we love having our guests in on the program. That I believe I'll be talking to them on the 10th. I think the interview is on the 10th. I don't have my calendar open right there, so I wanted to make that announcement quickly before we go to break. So I will read the comments when we come back. We've got a few other things to get to. We're also going to hear from Jeremy and Libby from Appleridge and RAAD about an upcoming health fair. That's just a little bit later on. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. And we are back. Look at our beautiful view. Looks like a lovely fall morning out there. on Market Street. Okay, reading through the comments, let me first apologize. I am much better at this. Normally, I was not reading the comments during our interview. I was focused on the interview. Now, some other guests, I'm able to check both. And I did not see the questions that you wanted me to ask Bryan Maggs. So having said that, I put them in a folder when we interview Bryan Maggs again. So I will get to those next time. It has nothing to do with me. It is completely me not ignoring you intentionally. It was a complete error on my part as I was focused on our conversation, and it's sometimes distracting for, I think, the show and also for the interview and interviewee to check the questions in that situation. So I put them on the list of questions to ask the next go around. So I appreciate it. I don't want you to think there was any ill will there, because they're all very good questions. Okay, let's go through some other comments on other issues. Why is it legal for the government to give my tax money to illegal aliens while so many American citizens, particularly veterans, go without? That's a great question. I don't have an answer for that. I mean, if you look at the story we were bringing earlier about the devastation from the hurricane, and that money all dried up, is all gone because of the help of, well, there was $750 for groceries, I guess, but because there was only $10 million, the way I understand it, left in the coffers, because the rest, $641 million, was it, used towards the influx of illegal migrants. So that is a very fair question. I think it's also I guess the only answer I could give you is why elections have consequences, and it's why it's important to get out and vote. Next up, regarding the devastation from the hurricanes, how will people that lost everything be able to pay property taxes and rebuild without flood insurance? Just look up drone videos and see the damage shown. The debris is coming into Douglas Lake. Yeah, I don't think there's an answer for that either. That's why the Georgia governor asking for help and getting the county numbers expanded. Originally, the White House only wanted to have 11 counties in Georgia designated disaster areas. He got it up to 30 or 30 more added on, but saying that there's upwards of 90 counties that were that would fit the definition of that the White House sets out, the FEMA sets out. So, and again, the New York Post asking the question, would that status have changed if Georgia wasn't a swing state? I'm not sure to the well, there were some good questions for Bryan Maggs. I apologize. Good morning, Frank. Hey, good morning. I have a question for this one, and if you'd like to write back and respond. You were talking about the DOJ is pushing foreign election interference from China and Russia as well as Iran. I'm not sure the second part. I'm not sure if you have the name right or if something didn't come through. So if you want to come back with the question, I'd love to hear from you. And finally, sorry. Frank, is it possible that the Biden-Harris administration is slow-walking aid to the states affected by the hurricane because they are majority Republican and think it would be a bad thing if the residents couldn't get out to vote? I don't think it's necessarily that. I think it's really incompetence. I mean, we're not sure who's in charge at the White House. We're not really seeing the help there, and Harris is out campaigning. So I just don't think, and when you have the coffers drained because of the influx of illegal migrants, I think that all creates a horrible term to use, but the perfect storm of just, again, the lack of disaster relief. Okay, next up. That was a brilliant critique of the true life challenges of a reporter. Okay, if you weren't joining us, it was about the reason why Harris gives interviews with local media, because local media, those people, they're not going to ask the tough questions because there goes their career, there goes their future if they're asking tougher questions than the mainstream media and doing anything that could harm the Harris-Walz campaign. And also, at the end of the day, they just want that photo with Harris and to be able to tell people, look, I made it in this business. I got to interview the vice president and potential future president. So that was my critique. And you have such kind words to say that you're glad I'm around fighting the virtual city hall of media. Thank you. I want to thank and shake the hand of whoever is in charge of allowing you to be on. I swear I did not write this. The breath of fresh air that you bring to our community is priceless. Thank you so much. Well, thank you for the kind words. That made my Friday. I do appreciate it. And of course, I was going to read that, but I did not write it. I want to say I did not write it. Oh boy, Walz even got heat from Democrats. Democrats have this unease now around Walz, and that's according to Politico. Far left Politico. Well, I shouldn't say far left, but left Politico. obtaining on and off the record statements from Democrats, the authors did everything but torpedo Walz's political future. Tim Walz was supposed to cut through the political nonsense, to speak plainly to Americans about out-of-touch Republicans. But instead, some Democrats were alarmed by his performance at Tuesday's debate and said he failed to capitalize on his opponent's weaknesses. Well, it's a lot easier to go out there and just say somebody is weird over and over again. It becomes a catchphrase, and then he's a star. I think it speaks, and listen, it's Democrats saying it as well, it speaks to the hiring process of Harris, where she doesn't see the value in Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro over Walz. So if you say, well, maybe there's some other reason, maybe it isn't the fact that there was questions and it was people like Van Jones questioning it, if it wasn't because of Shapiro's Jewish faith. Let's put that aside. Let's say it's not that. She just liked Walz better, maybe because of his catchphrase, weird, whatever, liked more than Shapiro. It speaks to her hiring process. It speaks to her, just her decision making. Okay, but I'll continue. Despite days of debate prep and weeks of delivering savage critiques of former President Trump on the campaign trail, but again, that's with a teleprompter. A lot different when you're one-on-one. They say Walz at times, I was right. They say Walz at times struggled to argue why Vice President Harris would be a better president. Some Democrats were deflated into a clearly nervous Walz, tripped up over his words. Even Walz's debate night surrogates appeared somewhat surprised at how civil the governor was. And in a moment that rattled Democrats, Walz delivered a muddled answer about why he previously claimed he was in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square protests when he wasn't, in a way that appeared he was unprepared to effectively respond. Strategists and some Democrats noted it was an unforced, self-inflicted error that at the very least is unhelpful at this late point in the race. This is not the appearance and debate you would want, said the strategist. J.D. Vance got away with a lot. It was more congenial than I thought it would be for sure, said Representative Jasmine Crockett, a Democrat from Texas, noting that there was a lot of pressure for Walz, who appeared out of his league. Could he have been a little harder? Sure. But he spoke about the facts and provided the truth and provided an optimistic vision of what Kamala Harris would do. That's some spin. But yeah, concerned about his political future. We have, how am I doing? We've got another guest coming up in just a moment. I see there's a comment maybe coming in about Elon Musk. Yes, Elon Musk will be there to support Trump tomorrow at the Butler, Pennsylvania rally. I'm not sure if that means he's giving a speech. Not sure. Oh, by the way, first it was jobs reports. Now it's crime. Biden's FBI has revised the 2022 violence stats for the worst. This week, President Biden once again took a victory lap on crime, talking about these preliminary FBI data on trends in 2024. Communities across our country are safer now than when I took office, he bragged. Yet when crime, a central issue in this year's election, he and the mainstream media have carefully ignored evidence that the FBI may be fudging its numbers, much like the way the Bureau of Labor Statistics massively overestimated the number of jobs created during the Biden-Harris administration. Last month, new FBI data showed that reported serious violent crime, meaning murder, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault, fell by 3.5% in 2023. But at the same time, and much more quietly, the FBI revised its earlier data for 2022, turning a reported decrease into a worrisome increase in violent crime. I don't want to get too wonky into the numbers, but just showing again maybe what's happening behind the scenes. Okay. I don't think you want to talk about this. Okay, we talked about Kamala Harris not receiving the endorsement of the International Association of Firefighters. She did, but they did not endorse in general, but that's very much like the Teamsters. So she lost the Teamsters endorsement. She lost the Association of Firefighters union, but she received the endorsement of Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney, who the media hated not that long ago. They hated her father. Now the New York Times, Mara Gay, the New York Times writer Mara Gay, she was on MSNBC. She says that it's interesting we are looking at these male voters who are Republicans who are saying enough. This isn't about strength. It's about not wanting to be completely insane and live in a world of chaos. Because J.D. Vance the other night really did his best to launder Trumpism as something that is normal and has a soft face and is perfectly respectable. You know, it's funny we talk about the politics of respectability in different contexts. J.D. Vance is really doing his best to bring respectability back to MAGA politics. As long as you have Republican voters, especially white men and folks like Liz Cheney, to come along and say this isn't normal, it's not acceptable. I may disagree with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz on every issue except for the one that matters. In this election, which is, can you guess? What is the one issue that matters? None of the other issues. That is democracy, which is supporting rights of other Americans. And this is not something that's acceptable to me. And this is why I read this whole quote, not just to get your blood boiling. I think Liz Cheney, as a truth teller, is especially important because as long as she's out there telling the truth, it becomes much harder to normalize Trumpism, normalize threat to democracy. It really is all cliche, but I think at this point to go back through and talk about the real threats to democracy, the lawfare, you know, their own nominee not receiving one vote to be the nominee, to be the candidate. The list goes on and on. The lawfare maybe being the biggest one, trying to keep using the judicial system to try to keep someone off the ballot. But there we go. That everything is a threat to democracy. Like I said, cliche, but she's probably some big award winner with the New York Times. We got to take a break because when we come back, we're going to be talking with Jeremy and Libby from Appleridge and RAAD about an upcoming health fair. Yes, it is a busy morning, and I still have other comments coming in. We'll get to those, so stay with us. This is, frankly speaking, here on News Talk. Here. Wow, that was an old flashback. WYDC TV, Big Fox. We'll be right back after this short break. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We're broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. And in the studio this morning, we have Libby and Jeremy, and we're talking about the 3rd Annual Community Health Fair. Good morning.
Good morning, Frank. Thanks for listening.
Of course. Let's talk about the 3rd Annual Community Health Fair. What is it?
So the Community Health Fair is being hosted by the Appleridge Senior Living Facility in Horseheads, New York. It is a partnership between the facility and my organization, RAAD, which stands for Resources and Advocacy for the Aging and Disabled, which is comprised of several human resources or human services organizations that offer services to the aging and disabled population in the community.
Well, and that's really interesting with RAAD because I just learned about it, the Resources and Advocacy for the Aging and Disabled. So this is really a public service? Is that what you almost call it?
In some respects, yeah. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization whose goal is to bring awareness to the vast amount of services that are available to that demographic. So.
Oh wow! And this is just kind of an extension to that put them all into one place today, or not maybe not all of the resources, but as many of the resources as you can fit in one place. Is that what that is today, or on the 25th? I mean.
More or less. Yeah. More or less. So what happens is, we have all joined RAAD as different independents trying to support seniors in their lifestyles and what they need, and sometimes resources aren't readily available to them, and it's hard for them to figure out where they need to go for those resources. So as a RAAD member, I'm just supporting that endeavor to get the information to our seniors. I have 124 seniors in our community that benefit from all that information coming to one place.
Oh, and that's at Appleridge.
Yeah,
wow.
Right at Appleridge Senior Living. So we're hosting the event. There'll be refreshments, prize wheels, raffle baskets. It's fun and informational, and it's an opportunity for our seniors to get out, mingle, get the information that they need and the support they need under one roof.
I imagine this could take some time because there are so many people coming together in this. Again, it's October 25th from 1 to 3 p.m. 25 to 30 agencies. So what should people know when they come? Because it's not just for Appleridge residents. It's also for the open to the public, right?
We're just hoping to get the word out because it's open to the public. Seniors can come, and we want you to come. We want you to get that information that you need.
Right.
And so, being able to come and just get all that in one place is just kind of what our goal is. And we've now done it. This will be our 3rd year, so it's kind of grown some momentum.
Yeah.
And so it's just a great day. It's a couple hours on a Friday afternoon where you can come and just enjoy yourself and get that information.
And get all the information and some refreshments. You said raffle tickets. It sounds like a really, not just a nice event, but a very important event for people. Does that seem right? Because there's so much to learn.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
charge for anything.
Oh, of course.
We're going to give them some free raffle tickets too. So, we just want to let people know that there is this great group RAAD that is a phenomenal resource for them as seniors and disabled folks in our communities, and just support that. And that's what we try to do in our.
And we generally hope that a lot of people don't need our services, but
Sure.
that's a good thing about a forum like this is that all these services are offered by all these agencies, and at the very least you're gaining knowledge of services you might need in the future.
Because
So,
if it's not all in one place, to track down some of the agencies you need, that could be very, very time consuming.
absolutely.
So the
Yep.
convenience of this from 1 to 3 on October 25th, again, Friday, that's the 3rd annual community health fair. This is just such a convenience for people that need this service.
Absolutely.
And there's a fabulous directory that RAAD has put together, so they can pick that up at the health fair or contact directly to the RAAD office to get one of those. And it has all the providers in it. So everything from county town levels up to the service of, transportation, health services, really anything that they need, housing, help with housing. So medical needs, all those resources in one
booklet, yep.
directory for
Yep.
them. Yeah.
And it's, so this is the 3rd annual. Is it easier to plan each year now?
I
Yeah.
would think so.
Yeah.
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 Do you think
Definitely.
does it just grow each year? Or has it been about the same?
We're hoping to get more community involvement. I think
sure.
as more people are aware of the event and of the resource group,
Of course.
we'll see more turnout for it this year. So
Oh, absolutely. And it's the 3rd annual community health fair. Speaking of turnout, mark your calendar, October 25th from 1 to 3 p.m. Where can people find out more about the event if there's something that I missed?
So we do have it posted on our events section under our website
Okay.
at www.appleridgeseniorliving.com. They can also call Appleridge, talk to me. I'd be glad to, talk about how they need to get there and those kind of things. So absolutely, those are probably the 2 best ways to find out more information about it.
And you mentioned Appleridge. Obviously, we haven't talked about Appleridge specifically, but this is such a good service to provide for your residents. Also, you're doing for the public. This is typical for Appleridge, right? To do this for their residents, to have great opportunities like this.
We do try to do a lot of things to support the residents in their lives, period. That's our goal, that for them to have everything they need pretty much under our roof. And, just really listen to what they need and try to bring it to them.
Yeah.
So the health fair kind of stemmed for me out of that, because I'm always looking for ways to support them. And then I joined RAAD because I was impressed with how they kind of brought this whole consortium of helpers together for the seniors. So for me, it's just kind of a natural hand in hand. And it does provide a service.
Well, and what's nice about this event, too, is it is open to the public. Obviously, there's no fee. But this gives people the opportunity that attend to also see Appleridge if they're interested.
Absolutely. Anybody wants to tour around, I'd be glad to show them. They're going to see a lot of the great common spaces when they come, because we're going to be utilizing many of those for the event. But absolutely, it is a very special place. People are really fortunate to have it in the area. And our residents are super special. So
nice.
I love them. They're a great generation of people, and have a lot of knowledge, insight. I always say I have 124 parents, and I got to tell you, they're something special. So come enjoy the event and learn a little bit more about Appleridge and RAAD and all these other great providers that are going to be there. And we'd love to have everybody come.
All right, 3rd annual community health fair, Friday, October 25th from 1 to 3 p.m. Libby, Jeremy, thanks so much for being on the program.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Frank.
Frank. Appreciate your time.
All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay. And we are back. Look at that beautiful view. There's anybody that's been on Market Street knows about all the leaves, the little leaves. So we got our cleaner out, getting ready for the wine glass marathon, or sweeper, I should say. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I wish we were broadcasting live from the tent sale at Hesselson's. Let me tell you, that's a fun one. If you haven't been, highly recommend it. I know today it's 9 to 8, Saturday 9 to 5, Sunday 11 to 3. Do not miss it, especially for all the people that enjoy the outdoors, specifically hunters. It's a must-attend event. All right, so many comments to get to. I feel like we're really cooking this morning. I feel like I'm a little frantic because we've been so busy, and I appreciate you putting up with my excitement. All right, first up, we could use Elon Musk to investigate what money is being wasted and where it is actually going. Do you think if and when he gets appointed, people can and will actually look at jail time for abuse of funds? I would hope so. I think, and I know that was the talk, and Elon Musk is going to attend the Butler, Pennsylvania rally tomorrow with Trump. I know there's talks of appointments and him looking into waste and fraudulent spending. I would hope that if he looks into it, and I think he'd be effective at it, I would hope that there would be punishment for the waste of money. So great question. Different comment. Walls. Stolen valor is not leadership. Being a coward does not help either. Thank you. Yeah, stolen valor. I mean, it's listen. You've got, and it's. I think I don't want to quote who it was. I don't remember who it was. It might have been Rich Lowry, but I could be wrong. Saying that his misstatement about being friends with school shooters is exactly that, a misstatement. But it's not a misstatement. It's his history of lying about his past. Whether it's the stolen valor, whether it's about being in Tiananmen Square when he wasn't. And I guess it's misstating, not even misstating, but talking about being a coach when he was assistant coach, lying about his DUI, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, we could continue. But a different viewer, because the number of Harris workers who left her employ was what, 90% yes. She could not keep employees working for her, and it was, I believe, at 90% last that I saw. But remember, the media spun it, saying that them leaving actually helped her free those reins, that they were the ones keeping her down. The media does a great job at every turn. But don't you think that this would be indicative of a government that would be in disarray, for lack of a better term? In other words, Harris doesn't get along with people well. Yeah, I think it would be indicative. Also, I would also say it probably shows a little bit of her hiring. I mean, when she picked Walls over Shapiro, when the people that she does hire don't like her and leave her. There's a lot of moving pieces there that signal a lot of red flags. Another comment, this from Ken. Frank, I would assume that with friendly media running the debate, the Harris campaign never assumed that the question on the Tiananmen Square would have been asked, so Walls didn't practice an answer, or he is just a knucklehead. Think about what the world would think of the Harris-Walls administration if the Dems pull off getting them elected. They'll be joking about the giggler-in-chief and the knucklehead VP. To your point, Ken, I think they're lulled into a sense of confidence that they could give a non-answer, because Harris does this as well. And I don't mean that a typical political non-answer where next thing you know, they never really answer the question, but you kind of felt like they did. I'm talking complete nonsense, like we saw with the Tiananmen Square quote-unquote answer. They're lulled into this idea that that's good enough. Harris gets away with it all the time with kind of the word salads. So he thought, I'd say some of this gibberish, something about being from middle-class family and the people that know him, know what it was really strange. What really ended up hurting him, and what he definitely didn't expect, he might have expected that question, but knew thought he could get away with giving a non-answer. What really shocked them was the follow-up. And I would say shocked the Republicans, at least me, watching and saying there's not the follow-up. There's normally not that follow-up. So for her to say after these non sequiturs and this really kind of wild statement, for her to go back in, the moderator, and say, well, what about the question, sir? That kind of thing. I was shocked. And that one instance doesn't make the moderators fair by any means. It goes to show you that Democrats could never handle being a Republican for even a minute with follow-up. And I know we talked about this with Joe Semplinsky yesterday, but with the follow-ups and the aggressive questioning. So I think that's what really got him. I'm sure as soon as he finished his sentence, again, that was rambling on and made no sense to the question, I'm sure he thought, got through that one. So whether or not they were prepared for it, I don't know. But got through that one, and then with that follow-up, it was really put the nail in the coffin for that kind of what some are calling one of the worst responses in the debate ever. And that was on the Democrat side saying that. Thank you for the waves coming in. So, yes, Ken, I don't think They expected that kind of pushback. One last thing, and I know I mentioned this quickly about Liz Cheney, and we can move on from Liz Cheney, but former Republican Representative Liz Cheney ripped Vice President Kamala Harris for years, even after January 6th. Keep that in mind. As a radical liberal who sounds just like Karl Marx. So I can't get to all of them. I already prefaced that this morning. It's 8 pages. But if you want to see all the times that Liz Cheney ripped radical Kamala Harris before endorsement, you can find that at the New York Post. Oh, by the way, MSNBC was stunned. This host, Ari Melber, was stunned. So Gordon Sondland, he's a former Trump administration official who actually testified against Trump during his impeachment. Testified against Trump. So obviously, Ari Melber, he's on MSNBC. He goes, "Oh, we got to have this person on." Gives us an opportunity, former Trump administration official, to badmouth the Trump administration. This is perfect. He said, Gordon Sondland, said that he would be backing the former president because of how badly the Harris-Biden team has run the country. And it shocked Ari Melber. Now, Sondland, a wealthy hotel magnate and Republican megadonor, served as Trump's ambassador in the European Union and was a key witness for the House Democrats during Trump's 2019 House impeachment inquiry. And I don't want to go through all that he did. He said, no, I don't stand by, and I'll tell you why. He said while sitting beside other former Trump administration official Peter Navarro and Sarah Matthews, "I've now lived 4 years under the Biden-Harris policies, and I have to say that those policies are not only becoming an existential threat to our country's way of life, but to our allies as well." That's when Ari Melber, the host of MSNBC, cut him off. This was not going as planned. This was not the narrative they were asking for. He said, "I'm going to let you finish, but this is so striking. You said it was a no for me after January 6th, and here we are right now, and you're saying it's a yes for you?" "It's a yes for me," Sondland responded. "It absolutely is a yes for me. This is how badly the Biden-Harris team had prosecuted, I don't think that's the right word, but had prosecuted their job. I'm seeing so many attacks on democracy that eclipse January 6th, Sondland said. And I would agree. There are so many things that, when you talk about threats to democracy, that we're seeing in real time. And that's why there's a projection of saying that Trump and MAGA and Republicans in general are a threat to democracy. They believe it'll work. But like Sondland said, the real threats to democracy are coming fast-paced. By the way, we have talked a lot about fact checks, and I want to talk about this quickly. Matthew Dowd was on MSNBC. Everything's MSNBC. And he said that Trump lies so much that the debates need live commentators fact-checking, which would make just great, right? I think they're exactly right. In this moment when candidates lie, like Vance lies through the debate and Donald Trump lies through the debate, I think we have to come off with a different mode where it's corrected and done in real time. We depend on the moderators, but I've often thought, remember Mystery Science Theater where they ran a bad movie and guys would comment on the stupid stuff in the movie? We need to cover debates while we're commenting during the midst of the debate. Okay. Brilliant expose there by Matthew Dowd. You notice how there lies when it's not the same opinion? And that's what it boils down to. It's a lie when it's not the same opinion of the moderator or of Matthew Dowd or whoever it is. Douglas Murray has a very great point on this, saying, fact-checking is like fake news, something that is now entirely in the eye of the beholder. At the vice presidential debate this week, the CBS moderators once again tried to show that they were the fair and impartial people in the room, except that, as with the Trump-Harris debate, they only seemed interested in fact-checking in one direction, against the Republican. On Tuesday night, the subject of Springfield, Ohio, once again came up, to nobody's surprise. And once again, Springfield revealed one of the big problems of this media era. CBS's Margaret Brennan decided to fact-check something that J.D. Vance said and immediately relayed a piece of false information herself. Following Vance's point about the number of illegal migrants, Brennan announced authoritatively that Springfield does in fact have a, quote, large number of Haitian migrants, but they have, quote, legal status and temporarily protected status. It was then down to Vance to fact-check the fact-checker by pointing out correctly that what Brennan had just described was actually a pathway opened up by Kamala Harris explicitly to fudge the true levels of illegal immigration. Without his correction, Viewers would easily have come away with the idea that there are no problems in places like Springfield because the stories of illegal migrants are untrue. And what Ohio actually has is a large collection of people with legal status in the United States. At least Vance got a chance, albeit very interrupted, to correct his interviewer. When Kamala Harris used the presidential debate to make a set of verifiable claims, her ABC host repeatedly let her get away with it. I think it means for incorrect statements. And we saw that. She talked about Project 2025. They did not correct her. The list goes on and on. So this is quite a lengthy piece, and we don't have time to get to all of it. But the idea is that they're using that term, fact check, to censor opinions that they do not like. And remember, let's face it, John Kerry saying just the other day, yes, John Kerry, saying that the First Amendment is, what was the term? A hindrance is a problem. But I'll continue. The idea here, according to Douglas Murray, and I pose the question to you, because we saw it with fake news. They used fake news, the left did, to try to censor. Now they're using fact check to try to censor. Rich Lowry says the left preaches an unbiased media that is blatantly anti-Trump. Where's the objective coverage? Saying objectivity, credibility, and professionalism are all worth sacrificing so long as the media are serving the prime directive, and that is to stop Trump. But you've got to remember, some people are saying, well, yeah, they've gone radical, but it's just once Trump's out of there, it'll return to normal. It will not. If this works, it will continue because, let's face it, we've been told horrible things about every Republican president and every Republican nominee. And it's grown and increased under Trump, but it's only going to, the bar has been set, is what I'm trying to say. So it's only going to continue, and the next person will be, if it's J.D. Vance, he'll be the worse than Trump. You hear that a lot when someone starts to talk about running for president. DeSantis may actually be worse than Trump. You know, those headlines. So just keep in mind, it will not slow down. Get your last second comments in because we are nearly out of time. Stay with us. Last break. We'll be back with Frankly Speaking. And we are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Look at that beautiful view as we prepare for the Wine Glass Marathon here on Marcus Street. Good luck to all the runners this weekend. All right, couple of comments. And I want to make very, very clear, we are out of time, by the way, but I want to make very, very clear that these two comments are from two different people. So the first person says, and I quote from this viewer, it says, quote, Trump is a liar, 3 exclamation points. Okay, end of quote. That's our first comment. A comment from a different viewer says, Frank, I enjoy the show. Have a wonderful weekend. Well, thank you. You have a wonderful weekend as well. And thank you to everybody who commented today. We are out of time. We were out of time a while ago. Oh, by the way, Cuomo is running polls to see if he should run for mayor. Putting a little money there. Thanks to all our guests. My goodness. Thank you to Cody Murphy and Sean Williams. The Elmira Aviators have their home opener tonight at the Lecom Arena. It used to be called the First Arena, of course. So thank you for that, to them for being on the program. Thank you to Family Court Judge candidate Bryan Maggs for being on the show. I really appreciate that. And thank you to Jeremy and Libby from Appleridge and RAAD telling us about that health fair. What a fun show. I hope that you have a great weekend, folks, a safe weekend. And we'll be back Monday morning with Frankly Speaking only on WYDC TV. Big Fox, we will see you bright and early on Monday. I look forward to it already.